aerospace and defense manufacturing,
machines and automation,
additive manufacturing,
smart manufacturing,
global manufacturing economy.
Welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals, powered by SME. From the design screen to the shop floor to final assembly, we drive the conversation about making manufacturing smarter by connecting people who are passionate about manufacturing.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. Please remember to like and subscribe to our feed. I'm your host, Steve Plumb, Editor-in-Chief for SME Media, along with my colleagues Kip Hanson and Amy Bryson. Thanks for joining us today. Another podcast. You guys ready?
Yes, indeed.
We're ready.
All right, well, we'll start off with great news. We just completed the April issue of Smart Shop Essentials, which went to press earlier this month and should be arriving to subscribers soon. So the issue focuses on a lot of various software management tools, which can be a bit of a alphabet soup. Kip, as you know from your former life as a consultant, while most of the acronyms remain the same, the technology and the real world applications have progressed quite a bit. Kip, can you kind of set the stage of how things have changed and, more importantly, what it means to small and mid-sized manufacturers?
Yeah, like you said, the acronyms are pretty much the same, but we've gained a lot of capabilities. I think that software is getting easier to implement now and easier to afford, actually, too, thanks to cloud-based implementations. But so I focused this is actually the 6th issue of Smart Shop Essentials. I covered some of the major platforms, the big hitters, if you will. Started out with ERP software, and then I dove into tool management software and presetters to a certain extent with Zoller and a company called Cribwise, which is part of Sandvik now. And then I talked a lot about estimating and quoting software. You know, a lot of shops are doing their part quoting in their ERP software, or they're doing it in Excel and then plugging the numbers into ERP. And I think it's important for shops to realize that estimating software is a lot different than quoting software that they find in their ERP platforms. So that one was with Paperless Parts. He had a lot of good advice. And then also talked about manufacturing execution software, MES, and its big brother, manufacturing operations management, MOM, and talked about the difference between those two. You'll find that MES is kind of evolved into a bigger picture, into MOM, if you will, which is you can think of as kind of the ERP platform for the shop floor. So that's pretty much the outline of this issue.
Yeah, so if you could tell us a little bit more about the ERP side of things, especially with your background.
Yeah, when I left the shop back in about 2000 or so, I went into ERP consulting, and I did that for almost 14 years. Also worked for about 6 years as a director of an or as a IT department for a manufacturer, and we did a lot of software development. And throughout my years in consulting, it was one of the things that kept coming up was change management. People don't like to change; they get stuck in their ways of doing things. And when I was consulting with ERP, that was probably the biggest hurdle. Was people don't want to change. So what ended up happening was we would rewrite or do add-ons to the software to adapt to their ways of doing things. And it was a big problem, though. We ended up with scope creep, and the project ended up costing more. Quite often it would fail because we went over budget and time and all that. So I made a big emphasis in this issue, in this story, about about managing that change. Got some advice from a couple smaller companies, ECI and ProShop, and so it was. That's the moving the cheese story.
One thing about this issue is it definitely lent itself to some great graphics. Shout out to our graphics team at Niagara Design. Moving the cheese was one part of that, and the other part was leveling up to level 3, which we used a video theme to it, and you alluded to some level 3 gaming systems there and their counterparts there, and how that transferred to the shop floor, whereas not quite as dangerous, but it can be as complex. And you're talking about moms or mom and MES, and the kind of competition between the two, pros and cons, different for different manufacturers may want to be better suited for one or the other. I guess kind of the overriding theme of the two is to do your homework, see what exactly you need to do, make the system configurable or composable, as they like to say in the manufacturing world these days, and look for low-hanging fruit and focus more on how you can grow your business, how you can use these tools to benefit the business, opposed to just going for the latest acronym and plugging the latest and greatest system into your process.
Well, talking about that article, MES especially, I think, is something that more shops should look at, especially given all the emphasis on the industrial Internet of Things, gathering data from the machine tools, getting real-time information back. MES and MOM are the path forward on that, and it's something that I think most times MES is thought of as a platform for bigger shops, for bigger companies, but there's really nothing stopping companies from starting on it when they're small, maybe when they're 20 or 30 people, and start to get those processes developed to make that successful.
Yeah, I know, especially the smaller businesses can grapple with data quality, workflow, and some of the other basics that you need to feed into these systems. The good news is, though, it doesn't necessarily have to break the bank. You don't have to go for the big ticket item right from the get-go. So, Amy, on the kind of the third leg of the stool here is the "Don't Quote Me" article. Can you?
Yeah, don't quote me. As Kip mentioned at the top of our discussion, really does paint the picture of a typical 50-person shop and how they quote jobs, which is, as Kip said, maybe it's on a cocktail napkin or, in some decades-old spreadsheet and the formulas are a little janky, or even just educated hunches based on years of experience or, the cost of raw materials that But the result is really disconnection, right? And it leads to what in the article is called islands of information. And that's not only confusing and inefficient, but it can also have quality and profitability and delivery implications. So Jason Ray, who is co-founder of Paperless Parts, sees this problem day after day and helps shops, solve this problem and just become more successful through software. Paperless Parts is one of many quoting and collaboration software systems that help shops streamline this complexity and break down the silos that can help effectively quote and manage all steps in a single centralized environment. And I think that speaks to, a lot of maybe smaller shops don't think that they can achieve a solution like this, but it's software based. And as you mentioned, Steve, it doesn't break the bank and it's easy to use and implement. And his advice is simple. It's ditch the scribbled cocktail napkins and get some estimating software, whether it's Paperless Parts software or someone else's, to really, and it can and should integrate fully with your existing ERP and MES systems if you have those in place. And as part of this story, there's a sidebar and Jason shares his insights for 5 key data fields that all shops should define and kind of clean up before implementing an estimating system. And I won't give away the store on that, so make sure you check out the article for those specifics. But again, it's a great example of a bite-sized article that's actionable and can make an impact tomorrow or even today.
I think we need to keep the cocktail discussions to something important, like filling out your bracket for March Madness.
Okay. All right. I'm not mad at that.
Any winners there, Amy, on your bracket?
Well, how I select my bracket contenders is basically by mascot. Like, I'm a big fan of a catamount. So things like that, So it's not a lot of science, it's just gut feel, and as you could probably guess, I've not ever been successful.
All right, any closing words, Kip? I know you're hard at work on the next issue.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I guess the only other thing I'd add was the moving the cheese. If anyone's wondering about that, it's a good book. Helps people kind of get their minds wrapped around how to deal with all the change. It's actually when I was consulting, the owner of the company that I worked with made everyone come to a retreat for 3 days, and we all had to read Move the Cheese and or Moving My Cheese, and it was good. I don't like the retreats and all that, but it was learned a lot, took away some good lessons from that. So in addition to reading this edition of Smart Shop Essentials, pick up Moving My Cheese and get going.
All right, sounds like a good homework assignment. Amy, Kip, it's always a pleasure and an education to talk to you both. And to learn more about the latest manufacturing trends and hear more of our podcasts, visit advancedmanufacturing.org. And be sure to like and subscribe to our feed.